Sure. Thank you. Well, thanks again for having me, Dave. It's a pleasure to be here. Really appreciate it.
No worries.
So Paradoxes, that's an album that I had always dreamed of making since I was literally a young child.
Yeah.
I start, I was exposed to a lot of classical music in my home when I was growing up. Other kinds of music as well, but classical was a big deal in the house. And my older sibling, my older sister, and her friends were listening to a lot of rock records at the time, and
Okay.
including a lot of prog bands. And bands like Pink Floyd, Focus,
Yeah.
Genesis, and so on. Most of them actually British bands, The Who and the Stones and so on. So I obviously through that, like the older siblings and the kids, the older kids, I took that music through osmosis and I really fell in love with the genre because somehow, I mean, even as a 7-year-old, I felt that when I listened to stuff like early Genesis, like Sell England by the Pound or Lamb Lies Down on Broadway, I maybe unconsciously realized that there was a lot of that classical music complexity there, and it just really talked to me. I couldn't really figure out what the words meant, what Peter Gabriel meant with that whole
Mm.
abstract, fantastical trip through New York. I would get that much later on. Uh, but the music was so compelling, and I was coincidentally learning how to play the organ at age 7, and therefore I loved the sound of keyboards. So, I was actually planning to be in science at the time. By the time I was a teenager, I figured that I loved music too much. And although I
Mm.
did get into electrical engineering, I very quickly changed that to music and left Brazil, went to the US. And then when graduating from Berkeley, I went to New York. So to make the story short, I mean, this record Paradox is like a full circle thing
Okay.
because my very first album, which was done in Brazil, was a prog rock record. Was like a classical rock album. I did it at 17, and it was called Music, Myth, and Mystery, and it did quite well actually. Like two of the songs that were played quite a lot on radio. And then I went to Berklee College of Music. I graduated, and then yeah, did a lot of house music, dance music to pay the bills
Yeah.
as a studio musician, rock dates. Got into classical music, of course, and did a couple of symphonic records, one with the London Philharmonic, which was a fantastic experience. And then I said to myself, you know what? It's time to go back to that space, that very special space from childhood, and it's time to kind of like pay a tribute to some of the musicians who really inspired me as a young child. Of course,
Yeah.
Beethoven, Bach, and Wagner and all that inspired me a lot. I also love jazz, and Oscar Peterson, love that stuff. But I guess that those bands really it had a huge impact on me, and I wanted to do an album, get out of the digital space completely. I felt that we spend so much time behind screens
Mm.
anyway. I don't want to make music behind a screen anymore. I've done enough of that, doing scores, for games or movies, what have you. And therefore, what you see on this background, it's all really analog stuff. I mean, those are all. I think that the newest instrument there would be from 1985,
Okay.
which is the Juno 106, which I bought when I was in college for $450 that I had to
Right.
save through the whole semester. But everything else, like the Mellotron and the Prophet 10 and the Hammond, I mean, those are all like 70s and earlier, like the
Yeah.
Hammond, like 1930s. And everything is going through amps, everything is going through loudspeaker cabinets. I got two Leslie speakers there, and several amps, and everything was recorded with the microphones, especially
Yeah.
one ribbon stereo mic because it's I just wanted to feel the waves in the air, and play everything live, like obviously there are tons of overdubs on the album, but every single overdub was done live in the room, and all the musicians played live in the room, the drums
Right.
were done in the room. So yeah, so that's the sort of paradoxes, and conceptually, every one of my albums always had a theme, and
Mm.
I decided I wanted to explore the paradoxical nature of ourselves in this very binary world that we live in,
Mm.
this very polarized world that we live in. I wanted to address that and do that through that musical universe while also playing a tribute to those guys who made music very close to my heart. Yeah.
Very much so. I mean, like you say, from what I can pick up from the listening to the album, you have got quite a modern look on the content, shall we say? But the actual music just took me way back. Early, like you said, early Pink Floyd, early Yes, stuff like that. And
Mm.
it's actually refreshing because, like you were saying, I mean, you pretty much answered all my questions before I'd asked them.
Oh my God, sorry.
Don't worry, don't worry. It's just great because a lot of the progressive rock and even the progressive metal and stuff like that
Yeah,
I hear
sure.
today is very, very modern in its technique.
Hmm.
And I think it loses some of its essence.
Hmm.
Would that would what you've done? You seem to have pulled that whole feel of the early 70s and
Hmm.
prog rock, which I grew up listening to as well.
Hmm.
And it was just like a whole sonic blast from the past for me, and it was absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
You know, yeah, I can't say too much like
I
that because it's literally just taking me right back. I'm thinking, yeah, you know what? I've just like ELP stuff like
uh-huh.
that. Just yeah, all
No,
wrapped up in one record. Then you've got like the red and the blue uh on the cover there, and I'm thinking, well, that's you could refer that to the red and blue pill of the Matrix films and stuff like that. But but obviously, the skies, red and blue sky, is one of the songs or one of the tracks on there. So
Sure.
so go through a couple of the tracks that mean so much to you.
Hmm.
Which ones would you pick out now that just really resonate with you?
Of course. Well, Red Blue Sky, the song you mentioned, which is the one that I suppose one of the radio friendliest songs
Mm,
on the record in terms of commercial radio, I guess. It's that song is exactly it's an invitation to people to have a conversation, really.
mm,
It's in a non-preachy way, in a non, dark and disastrous way, catastrophic way, just reminding ourselves that it seems like we've lost our ability to have a conversation.
mm.
And it's either black or white or red or blue, all or nothing.
Yeah.
And the lyrics say, come across and talk to us, so go there and talk to you. And after all, we might agree that the sky is mostly blue. So, um, yeah, it was really interesting because I just one day I got extremely down in the studio. I just sat in the chair, all the stuff that was going on in the world, and I don't know why, like I guess we musicians, that's the what drives the creativity, I suppose.
Mm.
And I just jotted down the lyrics for that song, in a half hour. And then I
Okay.
said, yeah, and then before that, I had done like I had composed a piece playing the an electric harpsichord and the horn clavinet together,
Mm.
arpeggiating the chords, and I had that I had recorded, and I said, well, that really fits that really well, and so then I wrote a song, and that track I didn't sing on. I had a fantastic singer who is also based in Vienna, Drew Sarek, who is very well known in the musicals world,
Mm.
but he also has a very cool punk rock band here, and he does rock really well. And in fact, I think he mentioned to me that he was asked by I can't recall who now, but I think one of the members of Dream Theater, I suppose. I mean, he
Okay.
said that he was asked to do some work with them, but somehow it didn't work out. And the guy's amazing, has a great voice, and was a real good fit for Red Blue Sky and for the other song, Liquid Fire. So that's what Red Blue Sky is about. Liquid Fire is another song that has vocals, and and that one is a bit perhaps a bit more direct.
Mm.
And it's essentially, what the hell are we doing with our home? That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
So, but again, trying to do it in a very non-preachy way, and just like, hey man, let's think about this for a moment, right? We can't eat paper, we can't drink gold. So what are we doing to run out? When the air is gone, what's going to happen? So, it's like a bit of an ecological thing, which was the theme of my first album, by the way, when
Okay.
I was a kid. And yeah, so and the other, there's one song that I sang on. It's called I Clock, and that's a satire of what's going on.
Yeah.
Take and talk your days away all day. Like and then basically, you have the clock going, and yeah. And then in terms of instrumentals, Jubilant Anxiety is a piece that is very close to me, because musically, that's the one that I go furthest into the jazz world that I love.
Yeah.
And the drummer was fantastic. And uh, and and I guess I think it sounds like the anxiety, like, when I was mastering the song with the master engineer, said, man, these sirens are driving me crazy, like they're making me really uneasy. And so, well, that's the whole idea. Yeah. And yeah, and while doing all that, like you said very well, I mean, I literally went back to that space of my 7, 8-year-old self,
Yeah.
when I was totally blown away by those bands, and by the music they were making. What creativity, and what originality,
Yes.
uh, and so cool that there was a business at the time that was open to that.
Mm.
I can only imagine, like Keith Emerson walking into Ahmet Ertegun's office at Atlantic Records and saying, "Yeah, man, we're gonna do a rock version of Mussorgsky's pictures at an exhibition, or revisiting Hinostero's piano concerto, and call the record Brain Salad Surgery." And I can only imagine you doing that today. They'll probably tell you, "Get the hell out of here."
They probably have to Google what he's talking about in the first place. Um,
Exactly, exactly. Ask AI,
yes, yes. Well, we won't go into that. Uh,
No,
this whole genre. I hate using the word genre of music because it's like
sure.
putting things in boxes. But this whole style of music is so complex and there's so many different elements going on at the same time. Where do you start? Where do you start writing?
Well, it, okay. In the case of paradoxes, okay. If I'm doing like a symphonic album, right?
Mm,
Like a classical record,
yeah,
and going back to the album I did with the London Philharmonic and Dennis Russell Davies, that was amazing. That's totally different, because that I sat down and I spent months, pen and paper, writing
mm,
symphonic music.
yeah,
And then it gets copied, engraved, and then those incredible musicians, and I'm telling you, the English orchestras they're all in a class of their own, because they're such amazing musicians, but they're also such great sight readers
yeah,
that they can play anything, which I have to be honest. I mean, even even with orchestras in places like Austria or Germany, that level of versatility, it's not so easy to find, and the English orchestras really get it down. It's amazing. So yeah, so basically that's one thing. An album like Paradoxes, I kind of, okay, I had the concept. Okay, I
yeah,
want to write about paradoxes found in nature and in humanity, and I just went into the studio and I spent a lot of time hearing things and playing things,
mm,
and then said, okay, I one evening I was focusing on the Horner clavinet, and I began to just do some very fast riffs on it, doing the bass line on a mini Moog, and I said, okay, this is a track, and then I
yeah,
developed it, and that became Steel Currents, or Like I'll be spending time with the Hammond and then the ARP Pro Soloist, which is exactly the same with a RMI electric piano on top,
Mm,
was exactly what Tony Banks was using when recording Lamb.
yeah.
The very same monophonic synth, the original, and I began to play those kind of classically oriented lines, against this heavily distorted Hammond power chords. So that became, enclosed pathways,
Mm,
and those soundscapes that you hear, like everything was done live, actually. I mean, all of that, like I'll go through the whole setup and nothing is digital, so there's no looping going on,
mm,
but you have analog looping, meaning you press a button and it says hold,
yeah.
and then the synth holds that texture. Then you go to the next one, and so you get those very abstract soundscapes that you have like in enclosed pathways and you have in still currents,
Yeah.
and yeah, so that's how it came about. I mean, really, like allowing my love for these instruments and for the sounds that I heard them do as a kid, and then taking my own take on them, getting
Yeah.
my own interpretation on how I want to use them. And yeah, so everything analog, everything in the room, waves in the space, feeling the bass of the Hammond pedals, of the Taurus pedals. You can really feel it, 15-inch huge speaker. And the guitar was recorded through two different Leslie speakers.
Okay.
Yeah, so like again, huge sound in the room.
Yep.
Coincidentally, one of the speakers is a Yamaha version of the Leslie, which rotates cylindrically,
Right. Yep. I know the one. Yeah.
which I've got, in my other setup that I have in the States. There's this organ that goes like that, and I managed to find a portable one here, which coincidentally is an amp, a guitar amp that Dave Gilmour was using a lot with the live Floyd shows in the
Right.
90s.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the
Okay.
guitarist was flipping out because like he just heard that crazy sound. Yeah, the drums were done in the room with Phil mics, to get the roomy sound. Like obviously again, the Phil Collins drum sound was a huge influence.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's how it came about.
Excellent. Excellent. I'm sort of interested what kind of mics you used as well.
Yeah, so 80% of what you hear on this album, I can safely say it's one microphone. It's the AEAR 80 ribbon stereo mic.
Okay.
Which means that every keyboard part, every guitar part, everything you hear was recorded in stereo in
Yeah.
the room. So every part has the natural stereo image of the space, and it has the space in it.
Yes.
And in the beginning, like my friend here, who's a great master engineer, he said, man, when you were, because I actually recorded the drums for one song, and he said, I don't know where you're going. I didn't know where you're going with this because everything sounded so roomy, you
Yeah.
know. And then when it all came together, he goes, "Oh, that's why it sounds so big, It sounds so spacious. And you have like dynamic range and you have punch, which again, it's something that I think the bands were doing back in the day,
Yes. Yeah,
you
definitely.
know. And you have those fabulous rooms, like Abbey Road there and
Mm.
Air Sound later and you know. So I think that the combination really is the space, real playing, live playing, and some good beer, some Guinness. So I think that's the perfect combination, and then you get this result, I think.
Yeah, St. Patrick's Day was yesterday, so yeah,
Yeah.
good nod
Uh,
to the Irish and Guinness. Yeah. Um,
did you have some Jameson and Guinness on top?
I was actually celebrating my wedding anniversary yesterday as well. So
Oh, happy anniversary.
yeah, 36 years in.
Wow, fabulous. Yeah,
Yeah, she's
we
still with me and putting up with me. So it's like,
yeah. Well, I've
yeah,
got my 32nd and same thing.
yeah,
She's still. putting up with me.
For how much longer for me, I don't know.
That's cool.
Okay. Paradox is available everywhere, I assume, to stream.
Yes, correct.
But
And
go on.
yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I assume there is a physical copy as well.
Yes, there is. So there is I think, a very nice gatefold double album, double vinyl, which has actually, when you open the gatefold, then there is a CD there as well, like
Right.
attached to the cover,
Yeah.
a bonus CD with a couple with the singles as bonus tracks, and there is also standalone CD. But the vinyl actually sounds better than the streaming. It sounds better than the CD. I have to say that it's 180 gram vinyl. It's really audiophile quality, and the cutting engineer did a marvelous job.
Mm.
And that one is available in the UK from a company called thesoundoftape.com.
Right. Okay.
Okay,
Uh,
they also do some they also like to do reel to reel, and they asked me if it would be okay if they did
ten-inch. Yeah.
a 10 piece limited run on reel to reel, because they have some customers who are reel to reel freaks, and they're willing to pay 300-400 bucks
Wow.
for an album with the same artwork on reel to reel. And I said, well, how much would you be able to pay me? And they go, between 30 and $70, because they got to manufacture the
Yeah.
whole
Yeah.
thing. That's perfectly fine. I mean, the more I can share the music, the better. So yeah, so I'm actually going to do a post. I'm going to do some promotion on that and let people know
Okay.
that they ship all over the world, and it's an online music store that I got to know through a distributor, because they focus on a lot on analog and
Mm.
audiophile and analog stuff. So I felt, okay, this is a good place to have the album. And unlike my other records, like the classical stuff, which have a label
Mm.
distributing them, then you got a distributor like Naxos, and then if you Google the album, then it's everywhere. You can get the physical everywhere. But yeah, so it's available there at soundoftape.com. And I am also working on local distribution in the States and in Brazil, because in Japan, because it makes it easier
Yeah.
but it's a limited run. We only printed 300 of them, and a lot of them have already gone. And yeah, if you listen to vinyl, I'll be very happy to send you a copy.
That would be wonderful. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're very
Um,
welcome.
okay. Well, Miguel, I won't hold you out too much longer. Paradoxes is out now. It is
Yeah,
well worth getting if you are into your vinyl. Then I'm sure it sounds absolutely superb because through my headphones at the moment, just digitally, it's just wonderful. So
thank
thank you
you.
for taking the time to speak to me.
Oh, thank you for having me here. It's great, Dave. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And all the best. Happy anniversary again.
Thank you.